Item Number, SCP-163. Name, an Old Castaway. Object Class, Safe. Description, SCP-163 is a sapient organism of extraterrestrial origin. When standing, it is 2 m tall and 1.5 m wide, the bulk of the body being suspended 50 cm from the ground. The body is roughly cylindrical with a circular mouth at the bottom, the equivalent of a head at the top, and 8 three-jointed legs arranged radially around the equator. SCP-163 also has a series of specialized limbs, listed here. 2 prehensile feeding apparatus on either side of the mouth. 2 arms near the top of the body, used for delicate manipulation. 2 larger arms located closer to the legs, used for heavy manipulation and lifting, and capable of producing a steady force of approximately 500 N and a striking force of up to 2000 N. 2 appendages of indeterminate function located between the legs and mouth parts which had been amputated prior to SCP-163's discovery. 30 cm from the top of the body is a single semi-compound eye which extends in a ring around it, allowing a full 360 degrees of vision. There is a blind spot at the back of the head to make way for an organ used for elimination of bodily waste. The compound eye is separated into 88 units. The most likely hypothesis is that each unit receives only vertical information while the brain intuits horizontal information by comparing input from the different units. The eye is sensitive to light wavelengths between 150 nm and 300 nm, equivalent to UVC, which is harmful to most terrestrial life. SCP-163 contains an endoskeleton which consists of tissue similar in chemical composition and structure to cellulose. The skeletal structure protrudes from the uppermost joint of each leg and appears to have been blunted by mechanical means. No pain response is exhibited when samples are taken from these protrusions. The skin is transparent to visible wavelengths of light, but opaque to ultraviolet. Blood samples taken have an oxygen and carbon dioxide transport system based on nickel, rather than the iron or copper used by terrestrial organisms, and is green in color. Analysis of blood and tissue shows that SCP-163's cells use DNA for instruction, with the standard GCAT bases. However, a different method is used to interpret said instructions. Sets of 3 bases still code for amino acids, but they are not the same ones that are coded for in terrestrial cells. In addition, some terrestrial amino acids are not present in its biology while others that it uses are not present in Earth's biosphere, allowing for dramatically different protein arrangements. SCP-163's home environment would have contained different proportions of elements, compared to that of Earth. This is evidenced by its sensitivity to certain common elements and its resistance to other less common ones. Redacted, a heavy metal poisonous to terrestrial life, is used in SCP-163's metabolism. Iron and calcium, though not used by SCP-163, causes no harmful effects to it. Exposure to data unavailable in any chemical form causes damage to tissue. Data unavailable and data unavailable are as harmful to SCP-163 as they are to us. A full table of safe and unsafe chemicals, along with dietary requirements, is contained in Manual M163-1. Furthermore, the atmosphere would have had different proportions of gases. SCP-163 is able to survive in our atmosphere for some time without mechanical aid, but will begin to show signs of illness after 1 hour. Air that is filtered to remove certain common terrestrial elements will prevent such an event. Analysis of SCP-163's technology includes searches for hermetically sealed chambers which may contain evidence of its home atmosphere. It is unknown how SCP-163 communicates complex ideas. The only vocalization produced by it is a steady sinusoidal wave of approximately 15 Hz when in certain emotional states. There is no variation to this vocalization, which can last from 15 seconds to 10 minutes. It is recommended that personnel exposed to this sound remain in well-lit conditions to prevent feelings of paranoia. Emotions are primarily displayed by the dome of tissue above the compound eye. Different states correspond to distortion of furrows in the skin by subdermal muscles. In addition, a negative and affirmative gesture have been noted. An affirmative consists of the rapid beating together of SCP-163's delicate manipulators, while a negative is the same gesture performed by heavy manipulators. Specific information on gestures and emotional states is contained in Manual M163-2. SCP-163-1 appears to be a universal life support device. It is able to convert basic chemical elements into sustenance for SCP-163, in addition to originally projecting the phenomenon in which SCP-163 was found. To ensure the continued health of SCP-163, study of SCP-163-1 is forbidden until after the death of SCP-163. The function of other equipment is still not fully understood. The technology is limited to crude transistors assembled into various specialized analog computers. Many physical processes that these computers model do not correspond to anything known to modern science. It is theorized that SCP-163-1 relies on some of these processes in order to function. SCP-163 was first discovered by miners in the Andes Mountains on data unavailable. The rock strata in which it was found are approximately data unavailable years old. Shocked minerals in the vicinity indicate that its spacecraft had crash-landed. The miners reported coming across an impenetrable mirrored surface which abruptly disappeared after enough rock was removed from it. The description suggests that this is a larger version of the phenomenon produced by SCP-163-1. Despite being encased in stone for data unavailable years, the contents of the chamber showed no sign of age or degradation, believed to be an effect of the phenomenon. Approximately 30% of the equipment had been looted before agents could reach the scene. Though some have since been recovered, there are many items still at large. Agents are continuing to scour the black market for any further clues as to the whereabouts of the missing technology. When agents took control of the scene, SCP-163 was still encased in the reflective sphere produced by SCP-163-1. The relative simplicity of SCP-163-1's interface allowed agents to quickly deactivate it. Agents were forced to subdue SCP-163, which was violent at the time. Aside from this initial confrontation, SCP-163 has cooperated with the Foundation, to the extent of its ability to understand us. The following are select experiments performed on SCP-163. A full list of experiments and results is contained in Manual M163-2. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-163's enclosure consists of 4 adjoining rooms, 3 m from floor to ceiling, with the following attributes. 15 x 5 m receiving room with an airlock and seating appropriate for both SCP-163's and human morphology. 15 x 3 m storage room capable of storing SCP-163's isolation suit, tools, and games. 120 x 15 m workshop and dining area which contains all salvaged technology, including SCP-163-1. 15 x 5 m sleep area and rest facility, furnished with seating and bedding fitting SCP-163's morphology. Air is filtered into the enclosure and is automatically monitored at all times by computer and once daily by staff, to check for impurities. Filters are to be changed weekly or any time impurities are found in the air. 2 separate lighting systems are used in the enclosure, one which produces radiation between 400 nm and 700 nm and one that produces radiation between 150 nm and 300 nm. The primary lighting system is to remain active at all times to facilitate observation. The secondary lighting system may be turned on or off at SCP-163's discretion. At no point are forbidden elements and chemicals to be introduced into the enclosure above prescribed proportions listed in Manual M163-1. Personnel, and any items brought with them, will be checked for traces of these chemicals prior to being allowed access to the enclosure. Personnel are to wear isolation suits at all times while in the enclosure to protect themselves and SCP-163 from cross-contamination. Before being granted clearance to enter the enclosure, personnel are to study Manual M163-2 and submit to an interview with Dr. Data Unavailable. Cleared personnel are permitted to interact with SCP-163 by assisting it with repair of equipment and by playing board games with it. SCP-163 may leave its enclosure at any time. It must first announce its intent to leave the enclosure through an agreed-upon gesture, and don its isolation suit. The suit contains the same air filters used to cycle the air in the enclosure. In order to facilitate vision, SCP-163 may carry a UV flashlight capable of producing radiation wavelengths of no less than 280 nm, in order to keep risk of skin cancer among personnel to a minimum. When roaming the facility, SCP-163 is to be accompanied by a junior researcher who is to record all actions, gestures, and expressions with a video camera. The escort is to also bar SCP-163 from any areas deemed dangerous to it. Once every 3 days, personnel are to deliver to the receiving room a 20L container with chemical elements in proportions listed in Manual M163-1. SCP-163 will take the container and pour its contents into SCP-163-1. The empty container is then placed in the airlock for retrieval. Equipment may be removed from the enclosure only when in the presence of SCP-163. If SCP-163 interferes with the removal of a piece of equipment, the item is to be placed back in the area from which it was taken. At no point is SCP-163-1 to be disassembled, operated, or removed by personnel, under any circumstances. Any attempts to do so will result in severe discipline.